Hi Virgo, welcome to February and happy Valentine's Day. This is Teresa from Tarot by T. Before I start your reading, I want to call in some good energy. So this month, on the 9th, we have a full moon in Leo. And then Mercury goes retrograde. You're ruling sign. Well, Mercury, you're ruled by Mercury, so it's going retrograde on the 16th, 2 days after Valentine's Day. And then we have a new moon in Pisces, which is opposite your sign. So it's going to be in your relationship sector, the 7th house. And that's on the 23rd of February. So let's see what the cards say, and then we'll get into the astrology later. So what does Virgo need to know about love and relationships for the month of February 2020? What is coming up for Virgo? What does Virgo need to know about love and relationships in 2020? Okay. The Knight of Swords. Six of Wands. The Hangman. Five of Cups. The Four of Swords. The Hermit. The Seven of Cups. The Eight of Cups. The Justice card. The Emperor. Okay. So, the Knight of Swords. This is a card of quick energy. You could be dealing with someone who is an air sign. Knight of Swords. Swords are usually air. That would be Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. But it could also be, because it's the first card, it could represent your feelings. Like you're feeling very anxious. You want to take charge. You want to move ahead. You want to get things done. So you may be wanting to just jump into something without giving it a lot of thought. The Six of Wands is a good card because this is representing success. You've experienced some kind of success recently. So there could be some kind of career thing going on in February that you're celebrating. Because the Six is a victory card. It's a card where you're being recognized for the work that you do. So maybe you're changing jobs or you're moving on to a new project. There's also an element of travel connected with the Six and the Knight of Swords. So you might be thinking about traveling. Now, in the past, you have the Hangman. This is a card of giving something up for something better. So you might have felt a little bit in limbo in the recent past, or stagnate. Like things might not have been moving. Maybe there was a relationship that was kind of stuck. You're in this stuck mode. And you're contemplating, like a relationship could be breaking up. Could have been, and this is the recent past. It might have even already broken up. Because this is a card of looking at the past, and this Five of Cups, it's instability in a relationship. Where you're like reviewing the past, maybe you have some regrets over a past relationship. You're like it's almost like you're taking time out to think of the past. And interestingly enough, when Mercury goes retrograde, it sometimes can bring people back from the past. It's a time of reevaluating things, going back to the past and reworking something, making it better. So you might be thinking about a past relationship in February and thinking about, how can I fix this? Or, what do I do about it? Do I move on? Do I try and fix it? Because the Five of Cups here, this person is looking at what they've lost. You have Three Cups that are spilled, but they're not seeing what they still have to work with. So I don't feel that it's not like a final ending. It's more of it's really up to you. Do you want to salvage the situation? Do you want to try and work with the Two Cups that you still have? But you're going to have to get over your losses. You're not looking at what you still have. You're looking at, the negative. So if you want to salvage a relationship that seems to be kind of shaky in February, You have to focus on the positive. What are the good things about this person? What are the good things that we share together? Rather than focusing on the negative or, the flaws. This also sometimes comes up when you have like a sense of regret. So maybe something ended and you're not happy with the way it ended. Like you realize that you wish you could go back and redo it. Like, you want to do over. I wish I had handled things differently, or I wish I could have, done things differently. So there's a sense of regret connected with the Five of Cups. And if you have broken up with someone, maybe you're acting hasty. This is a card of hasty energy, jumping into something without thinking. So maybe you made a decision in the past without really thinking of the consequences. And now you're having a sense of regret about it. And you're trying to think about, you're suffering the consequences of your decisions. Or you're experiencing the results of your decisions. And you may have some regrets about some of the choices you've made in the past. Because the Four of Swords here, it's a card of separation, taking time out to think. So you might still be connected with someone, but maybe you're separated, or maybe you're not. It's not like the relationship's not totally over. It's not like a done deal where you're saying, that's it, it's done, it's dead, I'm not going back there. It's more of a taking a time out, because you have the Hermit card here and the Four of Swords. I feel like there needs to be some healing, some time out to think and to evaluate your situation. The Hermit is also about thinking, you might not feel like socializing. You may feel like, I want to just be alone. I want to think about what's right. What do I really want in a relationship? What do I need? What really happened between us? So if there are some of you who broke up with someone, or you're in the process of breaking up, you're trying to evaluate what went wrong and how you could have done things differently or better. And if you're moving on to some other, if you want to move on to a new relationship, although I don't think you're really ready for that yet, you want to make sure you know what it is that you want. There might be some confusion around what the right relationship is for you. Especially because you have this Seven of Cups here. I feel like there are many options open to you. And you've been stuck in the choices. So, it's like, I could fix this relationship, but there are other people that are interested in me. You might have more than one option. So you have this, you really have to do a lot of thinking. I feel like it's not a good time for action as much as it is for thinking. And making sure you know what it is, who you are, and what you need to be happy in a relationship. Like, what type of person would be my ideal person? Because here you're just dreaming with the Seven of Cups. You're imagining the possibilities, but you're not taking action. Because it's in your fear sector. It's like you're afraid to take action. You're afraid to make a decision. You're afraid to say, okay, finally, I want this, not that. You don't want to make the decision. You're just kind of like floating in between, in limbo. But you're going to have to make a decision. There could be some legal issue also happening, because the Justice card is here. It's a card of finding balance, maybe dealing with some kind of legal issue where there has to be some type of settlement, or a decision has to be made. And you have the Eight of Cups here. This is your environment. So you might be thinking, maybe I need to move to a new location. Or the person you're involved with has moved. Because I feel like this is someone, this card represents the person that you're dealing with if you're in a relationship. What they're thinking. So this person is thinking, what we had was really good at one time, but it's no longer fulfilling me and I need to move on. And so there could be someone who's thinking about moving on, just moving away from the relationship because it's just not working anymore. And it even could represent a physical move, someone who's moving physically. It could be, literal or physically. So it could be that someone's just moving away from the relationship, but it could also mean that there's distance between you. That this person's moving out or moving on or moving away. And there could be some legal things that have to be settled with the Justice card. The Justice card is also a card of karma. So whatever is happening right now, it's kind of like a karmic lesson You're learning some lessons. And you may need some guidance with the Hermit. So it would be a good time to reach out to people around you. Reach out to loved ones, your family, your friends, or someone whose opinion that you value. Because this is a card of, you don't have to carry this burden alone. If you're going through a difficult time, I realize this might be specific to some of you and not all. But for those who need to hear this message, if you're going through a difficult time or you're in the middle of a relationship that's shaky, take time out to think, but also ask for advice. Speak to someone to help you sort things out, because this month is very confusing with all this Pisces energy and Mercury retrograde. Communications are going to be really all over the place, and there could be misunderstandings, there could be misinterpretations. So it's not really a clear time to make a decision. It's more of a time to evaluate and rethink and re-strategy, to fix things from the past, not to start something new. To go back to the past, to have closure, to rethink, revisit, maybe even do some research when Mercury's retrograde. Sometimes it brings people from the past because maybe you need closure. But the thing that's the ray of hope here is this Emperor. That's the outcome. So if you're feeling a little bit confused, trying to make a decision, not sure what's right, maybe you just need to take time out. I just feel like you need time, you need rest. You need to take time out to think, to evaluate, not necessarily take action. But if you want to fix something, the Emperor, this is a card of creating something that's solid and stable. You're going to have to tap into this Emperor energy, where you take responsibility. You can't blame the other person. You can't go do the blame game. Like, well, it's because you did this and, blah, blah, blah. You have to step up to the plate and make a decision and take responsibility. Because the Emperor energy, this is the executive, the CEO, the person who's very solid and stable that people can depend on. It can represent a father figure even. So maybe you have to evaluate your relationship to authority and to maybe parents, because maybe our parents program us. We use them as role models. So if you have a good relationship with your parent, you identify with authority and you know how to, you kind of establish your own inner authority. But if you have a difficult relationship with a parent, then sometimes you could reject your authority and you don't want to deal with authority and you kind of remain in this dependent kind of state. You don't want to do that this month. You want to really find your inner authority and execute that. Be the executor of your life. Take charge of your life. Get out of this indecisive mode where you're just kind of in limbo. You have to make a decision. Come good or bad, making a decision, because like a lot of people are afraid to make decisions because they're afraid, what if I make the wrong decision? Then I'm going to have regrets. And then I can ruin my life. And not making a decision can ruin your life too. Because then if you don't make a decision, someone else is going to make one. And maybe you might not like the decision they make. So it's better to make a decision, and then if it doesn't work out the way you want, make another decision. And you just keep making decisions as you move forward. The problem with Virgo is sometimes you just want to make sure, you want everything to be perfect. And it's like, I want to be sure that everything's going to work out perfectly. And that's like an illusion. Nobody does the perfect thing all the time. We all make mistakes. We're human. So you can't be afraid to make a mistake. You can't be afraid to take action because you're afraid of how, of things that you can't control, that of what could possibly happen. Sometimes you just have to go by your gut feeling and make a choice and let the chips fall where they may. That's part of being a leader. That's part of leadership, is making that decision and dealing with the consequences, whether it's for good or for bad. However, though, with this Justice card, I feel like if a decision is being made in some type of relationship situation or legal situation, it will be made in your favor, or there will be at least a fair outcome. It won't be one-sided. So, maybe you're dealing with someone that's just hasty, wants to get things done, if it's not you. But let's see what the astrology has to say. So Virgo, You have a full moon. Okay, here. It's in your 12th house, and the sun is in your 6th house. This is kind of like the psychological axis, where you need to take time out. Like, things are coming to the surface. Maybe you're starting to see at this full moon, where have I sacrificed too much? Where have I sabotaged myself? Because the 12th house sometimes is self-sabotage, psychological blocks that have been hidden, like your blind spot. This might be coming to the surface now. Where have I sacrificed my own identity in the name of a relationship, or maybe in the name of a job, or some obligation, something I felt obligated to do? This is all coming to a head now. Mars is in your 4th house. So things, you may be, if you're living with someone, there could be arguments in the home. Or you could be working to create a home, to set up a home. There could be construction going on, or you're spending a lot of time getting, things right, fixing things. Neptune's in your 7th house, and this moon is making an inconjunct to Neptune. So there could be some confusion around relationships. You could be, you want to make sure, when Neptune's in the 7th house, 2 things could happen. You can meet someone who feels like a soulmate, but you're not really sure. Because with Neptune, you don't know if you're just seeing that person, seeing what you want to see in someone, and not seeing the reality. At some point, you're going to see the reality. And especially since Mercury is now in your 7th house, and it's going retrograde, it could bring people back from the past. You may want to revisit. But there's also a lot of confusion around communications at this time. Sometimes Neptune can bring a soulmate, but sometimes it could bring someone that you want to save. So you want to avoid getting into a relationship where you feel like you need to save someone. Like you're being the chivalrous knight, and you wind up getting someone who's very dependent upon you. So you want to avoid that kind of victimization, like where you're either someone's got a drinking or drug problem and you're taking care of them, or someone's got a mental issue and you're taking care of them. You want to avoid that. Saturn and Pluto are going through your 5th house, so it's changing. You're having intense relationships with children. You may feel like like life has been all work and no play, and you haven't had time to really have fun or do something fun and express the real you. You've been so busy taking care of things, so you want to make sure you're not overly sacrificing. Then this full moon may bring that up, because it's activating your 6th house of work and sacrifice and service, also health, with the 12th house of it's kind of the 12th house is like your psychological house. It represents the unconscious. It represents, you might be dealing with people who are confined in some way in hospitals, prisons, things that are hidden, things that are not readily seen, psychological issues, hidden enemies. Most of the time, it's the way we self-sabotage, and it's telling us that we need to release some baggage. We need to see where we have been standing in our own way. What have I been doing to sacrifice? Am I the victim? Am I allowing myself to be victimized because I feel this need to serve? Am I playing the victim? What do I need? Where have I been standing in my own way? Where have I been blocking my success? Maybe I need to talk about it. It's a great time to really talk about things and get to the root of your problems, the root of your blind spots, so that they're no longer controlling you. It's like you're being programmed. You're controlled from the unconscious, and you're not really aware of the things that you're doing. So that's why this card, you could talk to a counselor or talk to someone. It doesn't have to be formal counseling. It could even be a good friend, or like a parent or an uncle or an aunt, or brother, sister, whoever that you feel you can talk to help you sort things out. Because I feel like there's a lot of confusion going around, especially around relationships, because you have Mercury and Neptune in your 7th house. And especially when Mercury goes retrograde, it could be a time for some of you to go back to someone, to go back to a relationship that you thought was maybe over, and to rework things. Maybe you can solve some of the problems. and have a new beginning. Or you can have some type of closure where you can move on. If it's time to move on, maybe you need to have some closure with the past. Something that's been hanging around in your, that you've been feeling guilty about or something, I don't know. But you need some type of closure. You need to end a cycle and release it and move so that you can move on. And completion at the full moon. And with justice here, you want to have a fair outcome. You want to settle the score, pretty much. So that you can move on and say, okay, I don't have any regrets. I've done what I was supposed to do, and now I can move on. Then you have this new moon, and the new moon in Pisces is in your 7th house, conjunct Mercury. So there's going to be some communication, and Mercury's going to be retrograde. So it's very possible you could hear from someone that you haven't seen in a while. Or you could be renegotiating contracts or something involving a relationship, or it could even be a business partnership. Mars is in your 5th house, so you're really wanting to take action. It could be a new romance. You might be thinking about someone new. So if you decide, like, I'm not going to fix the old relationship, I'm just going to let it go, I'm going to, tie up loose ends and move on, you might be feeling anxious about doing that. Mars is trining Uranus in your 9th house. So you could be meeting someone that's out of the blue. The 9th house has to do with higher education, long distance travel, your belief system. But with Mars and Uranus coming together, if you do meet someone new, if you have a new romance at this new moon, a new relationship starts, it could be with someone that's very different, that has very different belief systems than you, who comes from a different culture. They just were raised in a whole different way. And having a relationship with this person is expanding your consciousness in some way. Venus is going to be in your 8th house, so that's good for money. It's bringing in financial support. But it's squaring Jupiter in the 5th, so you have to be careful that you're not over. Like if you meet someone new in February, which is entirely possible with this new moon, you could start a new relationship because it's in your 7th house, and Venus in your 8th, it could be very steamy. There could be some strong sexual attraction. You could actually meet someone that you have a true intimacy with, and they could be very different from you. But you have to be careful that you don't overspend in your enthusiasm, because you may be feeling, if some of you meet someone and you're all excited about this relationship, you may go overboard. You just want to don't go overboard with spending money and eat, drink, and be merry kind of thing. You might be all excited, so just be. Just proceed with caution. That's all I have to say. Especially since there's all this confusion around with Mercury retrograde. Wait at least until Mercury goes direct and is in Aries and out of your 7th house before you make a decision about the new relationship. Now, if you're reconnecting with someone from the past, that's another story. That's a totally, this is the perfect time to reconnect with someone from the past and to try to rework the relationship. Then you have the blessing of Mercury. But if you're starting something new, whether it's a job or a relationship, you want to be careful that you know exactly what's going on, because things could change once Mercury goes direct. Like you may think, I see this person one way, and then all of a sudden later you see things that you didn't notice before. So just be cautious. And take your time when you're making a decision to make sure that you're making the decision based on what's best for your needs. Something that's really going to be good for you and what you need to be happy in a relationship. Not so much of, I want everybody else to be happy. You have to think about, there has to be a balance. It can't always be about the other person. It has to also be about what satisfies you. Otherwise, it's, it won't be soul fulfilling, and you won't have that foundation to continue and make it work. So anyway, this is my reading for February. I hope you have a wonderful Valentine's. I hope that this month brings you everything you need, brings you clarity, so you can make the proper decisions. And if you are connecting with someone from the past, that you have some type of closure, or you can rework things and make them better. but you get out of your stuck place. That's my main goal to tell you. But it involves you making a decision and taking responsibility. You're going to have to do that to make any changes. Otherwise, things might get dragged out a little longer than you want them to be. So thank you, Virgo. If you like this video, like it, subscribe to my channel. If you're new, welcome. If you'd like a private reading, then click on the link in the description box and it'll take you to my website. We'll get you on the schedule. In the meantime, thank you everyone for supporting this channel. I wouldn't be here without you. Whether you're liking or commenting or ordering readings, I appreciate all of you. And I wish only the best for all of you. So have a wonderful February, and I will talk to you again next month. Okay, bye now.